Hey, Carson. Carson is hell. Welcome to Talks with T.
Wow, it's like you're like in a Geico commercial or something
Yeah.
like that.
The last time you were here, we were doing Tinder with Teona, where I was like setting you up and like trying to like find you the love of your life.
Well, you were very unsuccessful. I'll let you know of that.
You know what they say, patience is a virtue. Don't be like me.
What
I was
what
impatient
have you
and-
been patient about?
I was impatient.
Wow, really in-depth story.
You got
Really
me
great
there.
beginning, middle, end. I was following the whole time.
Wait, Carson,
I'm waiting.
I have to tell you something.
Okay.
I just feel like I need to tell you because I'm unwell.
Okay.
This
You need to elaborate.
This morning,
Okay.
I saw the biggest snake of my life on a hike that I thought wasn't supposed to have snakes to begin with.
Uh-huh.
And I'm unwell. Like, I literally texted my boss. I go, I don't think I could come in today.
Okay, that's a bit much. I'm sorry.
Carson, you have I'm going to send you the photo. You're going to add it. I don't do snakes. If there's like my top, I only have, I want to say 3 fears. And one of them is snakes. Like we're talking like tangible fears.
Okay.
I don't fuck with snakes. Like I can like, I saw cockroaches once, like a bunch of them, and I was like, that's fine, whatever. They're like gross. But
That is not what you told me. You were freaked out.
But I still can tolerate them. Like a snake, like I'm unwell.
I
didn't know cockroaches were that big.
They can be, yeah.
Oh my gosh. But what is like your biggest like tangible fear?
My biggest tangible fear.
Don't say me.
No, I mean, of course, I love being around you and all. I never have any fear all whatsoever.
I'm Carson's best friend. No. Oh, I thought you meant like I don't know if I'm your best friend. I was like,
no, I know. Like, I don't like heights. Like, I feel like I get like that feeling, but like everybody gets that like feeling where you kind of like tense up. Like, but like I don't like sit there like having nightmares about like falling. I don't know.
yeah, I know people who like literally don't like they have like anxiety. Like I'm chilling.
I think I'm really scared. Okay, this is one where I'm like, I would genuinely lose it. Is knowing like I'm in the middle of the ocean
I mean, a shark.
and there's a shark under me.
So you're scared of sharks?
I don't know if I'm necessarily like I'm scared of a scenario by which I'm in a body of water and there's things below me that are like trying to kill me.
So I have a fear of the unknown. That's another fear of mine.
Uh-huh.
I love the water. I love the beach.
Yeah.
But I do agree on the sense of like once I can't see my legs, what is that face?
Well,
just
sitting here.
That was like something, but not seeing my feet, like that would get me freaked out. Like I start to panic because I'm like, what the hell is under me? Because
yeah, exactly. That's the feeling I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get that. Wow, we're so together. We're so one. Yeah. So talking about fears, I actually there's a reason you're on this week's podcast.
I see.
You've inspired me.
Oh, thanks.
I have yet to get the book. So Carson basically said he would drop me as a client if I didn't get this book.
Mm-hmm.
But Losh is in Mexico, so he's gonna get me the book on his magic site.
Right, of course, because you have to get your specific book dealer, as books are illegal, and you must go through an outside
movie
source.
Set up, so like he has the book set up. Why would I buy a book if he just it's So anyway, so
CIA is going to be like on this podcast.
Yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
FBI showing
Could
up.
you imagine like this small podcast and they're like, we got to get these guys.
They're
the problem with piracy in this world, you know?
Mm-hmm. So I had this so if you don't know, if you haven't watched my podcasts, it's not a fear, but I think we're getting so serious now. We went from like ha 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 to so like one of my like things that I struggle with was always like the perception of like what people think or like people pleasing. And so specifically this week, I don't know why. I think it's because like shocker, me and Carson have been working on stuff, and like I think moving in that direction again is like bringing back like certain fears of mine of like what will people think? What would this blah blah blah. And I had this like just like to be very transparent this entire week, just like extreme anxiety. Like I think you got in text every single day. Like
Yep.
I'm like freaking out, and it would just be so random, so random. Like I would just start freaking out. And you know, the first person when it comes to these things, honestly, that I text is like Carson, because one, like he lives with me, so like it's just easier that way. He sees me, and then two, like I trust him in a sense of like he's seen me through those phases. And so Carson actually, you know, and usually it's me bringing the motivation. Carson said some things in text that you know, and I would love for people to hear it coming out of your mouth.
Okay.
He basically was like, you know, when I came to him and I said, I'm going to let you talk about it.
I honestly
But,
don't remember what I said. I'm gonna
well,
be
your
completely
biggest, like,
honest.
okay, so I want your idea of how you've come to the realization of just like you're competing with yourself. Like, it's so much easier said than done. And then you also were saying to me, I'm gonna pull up my text threads, that I literally actually screenshotted the message and kept it in my phone.
Nothing is sacred.
Not to be, well, I have to remember this stuff. You should be honored that I even felt like screenshotting your text.
I see.
I keep my receipts all the time, but to keep them twice, like that's not. Um. Oh. This was a deep one. You're caring far too much about others when realistically the race is against yourself to either settle or be the person you want to be. And so elaborate on that. Like, please explain to me what is your advice for people that, you know, when I came to you and said that I'm like freaking out, like, what do you have to say about that? Like, what is like, again, but this time on camera.
Well, I think for context, your insecurity that you were going through was in the sense of like you didn't feel like you were putting out music fast enough, and you like were like, well, I just feel like in the sense like real imposter syndrome. Like you're like, well, I'm not doing this thing, and like you kept texting me all these like kind of similar threads where it's just like you feel like you have this audience looking at you, like waiting for you to just do something,
Yeah.
or like they're all like ganging up against you or something
Yeah.
like that. The most tangible like experience, and like there's been a lot of stuff that I've been reading where you know like it kind of more codifies what I'm thinking, but um in a sense like I remember when I went on like that, like, you know, I think we talked about this, but like that starvation diet in sophomore year of college.
Mm.
One of my biggest frustrations through that process, not because like I went into a starvation diet to get to a point, but I was working really hard on my body to be like a physical, like have a different, you know, physical appearance, right?
Yeah.
And so the biggest like frustration I had, because like again, like not condoning any action I did during that time to get to the point I was, it was like it was an impressive feat to where I got, you know, even though it wasn't very healthy. But my biggest frustration was like no one noticed. Like it was just like, oh, like it's just Carson. You know what I mean? And so I think that was my first glimpse into the fact that like even if I did get the compliments or like the praise, the shine, it's like everybody is ultimately thinking about like this sounds bad, but like themselves,
Yeah.
right? Like your friend that you met your freshman year of high school, 9 out of 10 times is not thinking about you. And everyone thinks there's this narrative that like you're now like it's the whole like high school reunion thing where like I've caught myself multiple times being like, oh, like, you know, when I go back to that reunion, like I gotta show them that I'm
Show them
cooler
off,
cooler
yeah.
than I was in high school. And ultimately no one cares. No one cares whether you succeed or fail. The race is against yourself.
And it's in that one little moment isn't going to bring you. It's the same thing of like you can strive for that success that you want, but once you reach that point, like then what? Like it's like that idea of like you can do all these things, but it's not going to give you that peace because you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for other people.
Yeah, you're doing it for other people that probably are not going to give you that validation. Like, there's like a quote, it was on like a dude bro like motivation thing, but like it was like, don't work to impress that guy from high school. Work to be the inspiration to that guy from high school when you see him again.
Mm,
And it's like that mentality because it's like your best revenge is going to be that, not showing up and him being like, "Wow, you're so much cooler." Like nothing. There's going to be no scenario where that happens.
yeah.
Like 9 out of 10 times, even if you do get that moment, you're going to feel equally as sad and empty
Yeah.
as you did before.
I saw something too that was like, you're not the main character in everyone's story. Like, so you are your own, like,
Right. And I think like, but also too, this isn't like a self-centered view. It's like, oh, this is just about me. But it's like, do things because you want to, like not because like, oh, I'm really trying to like. And another great example is we went to Berkeley. Berkeley, whether or not people admit it, is a very competitive school. People are just passive aggressive about it. They aren't just like in your face, like, I like did this show. People are just like arrogant and like passive aggressive.
yeah,
And so whether or not people want to admit it's competitive, it is because you're always looking at Instagram, at TikTok. Oh, what's this artist doing?
yeah,
Like, what's this person that graduated with doing now? Like, and it's like, it doesn't matter because you're never going to be actually content. But it's like, the whole thing is like, you're not trying to be all about like yourself. Like, it's just like, the competition part doesn't mean anything. Compete with yourself. Compete with yourself from yesterday. Compete with,
yeah,
because that's a person that like you're always, you want to be challenging yourself. Because if you aren't, then like you're not going anywhere.
mm,
And like the more gratifying thing is like coming to terms with challenges you give yourself and seeing your personal growth compared to being like, well, I really hope Teona noticed I did this thing. Because even if you did notice, it doesn't matter. Like you're
yeah.
gonna go about your day. I'm gonna go about my day. But then I'm just gonna be sad because like I'm like, oh, that didn't feel the way I thought it was going to.
Like, I think when Carson texted me all this, like, it like stilled me a little bit because it brought me back to reality of the fact that, again, this is not something new. Like, this is something he's seen me like struggle with a lot. And I'm transparent about that because I think, especially in the industry that we're in, like, everyone's gonna, like, I always say this, everyone has a comment, everyone has this thing, like, is in a race. And so it's so easy to get caught up and be like, well, I need to do this, and this. And I think, especially when you're focusing on one specific thing, like, I noticed, like, so when I first moved out to LA, I had a vocal injury. And so that left me to have to do everything that I was doing aside from music. And so now that we're back in that, it was this like anxiety that I felt was like, well, that I still sometimes feel is like, well, I wasted time, or like I was, what are people gonna, what are people gonna think? Like, what brand am I building? Like, it's always like, I joke around about like the brand, but like that was something that, especially in the industry that we're in now, like, it's so crucial. But like, if you're not doing it for yourself, like, what is it? Like, that brought me in reality of like, well, if I'm not happy, what can I do in that moment? Or like, I'm gonna do it. And then another thing that you said was like, rather than have to prove to someone something, just do it. Just do it. Like, you were saying that you just want to, rather than talk a talk or like try to like rush it, you're like, when it comes out, it comes out. I'm proud of it. That's it.
Yeah, well, I think I've come to terms with like the fact that what's been cool about LA and like taking a step back is like Berkeley felt like, oh, all like quantity, all quantity, all quantity. And then I lost sight of the fact that like this should just be like I came to terms with what I really wanted and I codified what I wanted. Like I
Mm.
could actually say it out loud. And it was like I saw all these artists growing up and like now I have a mission statement where I'm like, oh, I just want to make music that I'm really proud of, and then I'm gonna go share that. And then if people enjoy it and that impacts their life and inspires them to do great things, then great. Like that is the goal and the vision. Whereas before I felt like it was all more vain and like, oh, well, I just want to get to this point and then people will look at me. And it's like, honestly, at the end of the day, like your heroes, like, they're still going to be feeling the same amount of emptiness because even being on that stage in front of thousands of people, yeah, it's a great feeling. but that feeling goes away in about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And just because people see you at, like, I don't know, 10-speed coffee, and they're like, oh my gosh, a picture. Guess what? That picture isn't going to make you feel any more whole either. Because then the next person, you're going to have maybe a high for a couple seconds, like, oh my gosh, that person recognized me. And
It's like
then,
a domino effect. It
but
just keeps
then
going.
you're just going to be like, well, it just keeps falling. It's a drug that's just going to never satisfy.
Yeah.
And it's like, just do stuff and then, be proud of it and like make art that you really enjoy yourself. Like it's the same Rick Rubin philosophy. Like he's a famous producer. Like he's like, don't make music for an audience, make music for you in anticipation that that audience will also resonate with you because you're sharing your story.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like doing, I forget, I lost my train of thought. That was the period to the sentence, I think. I don't.
Period.
Yeah.
What is your favorite, like you're saying like you do this for yourself, like
Well, I don't necessarily like I don't do it for myself. I make art that I think, or like I do things that I would be proud of, but like it's ultimately in service of that it will inspire someone else. But I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm going to make this song because I know like my cousin will like it. Like it's like I'm going to make this and then but I'm also distributing this music in hopes that maybe this also connects with someone and inspires them to do something similar or something greater.
Yeah. What is your favorite process of what we do?
Favorite process?
Like mine has to be, honestly, it's not the songwriting process. The songwriting process is like Carson has seen me break things. Because the thing is, I either have like there is no better feeling than, and I'm sure you know this, than cracking the code to the finished puzzle. Like is like I wrote the chorus that took me 6 months to find. Like that. Like there's no better feeling than that. But to me, like I think the best part is the recording process. As much as I'm like in there huffing, puffing, sweating, and like Carson has like locked me in his closet once singing.
You say locked. I was just like, go in the closet. You could have exited at any point.
This is true. Carson's closet. He put me in his closet to record. And even in that small space, like it's still the best feeling. Like for me, it's the recording process of like the vocals, because I think like there's like a rawness to that. And then I think my second favorite part is just getting the mix. I love when you send me like all of it together and we just like, toy with it.
I think we have different favorite parts.
He hates the mixing part.
No, I do. I mean, my thing is like, yeah, the cracking the code kind of idea, like even with one song, like what I sent you today, today was the first day where I was like, oh, this is actually like going somewhere. And then like, I really just have slight revisions and I can move forward. Whereas like, if you asked me 7 days ago, I would have been like, I don't know what to do with that song. And
it's crazy how we work.
Yeah, and it's really like for me, it's very frustrating because it's like this is like a skill that I'm still trying to learn. Whereas like drums, I can just get behind a kit and like effortlessly come up with ideas, and most of the time people are like, "This is good."
Yeah.
Whereas with your songs, I'm still getting better at like trying to make it is what it is, and so for me, that's super frustrating, but like it's equally as rewarding at the end of it because then I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it was supposed to be. So like today, like that was a great feeling. I was like, oh, this is actually like in a place where now I can move on to another song, and then at the end of it, we'll give the notes to the person that will perform said pieces, and then we'll be good. I think I do like the process, like. How we've been doing it recently is like I will just get behind the piano and just come up with a part. Again, it's still like hard, but like that's like the moment where I do feel the most abandoned and like I just am enjoying the music. Whereas like once we actually get into the production phase and we're like getting to the pieces, that's work to me. But like me just coming up with a part and being like, oh, that's really pretty. I enjoy that. Is nice. I think like also too just like the feeling of like when you tell me people are loving the song and like they actually genuinely listen to it, because that for me that means that's like mission success. Like
it's the same thing as when Carson tells me that people like my voice. Like I'm like, no way. Like when he texted me last week and he was like, oh, my friend like really liked it, like I was like, really?
Well, yeah, that's why I text you these things because like I showed someone and I was like showing them kind of the bits and pieces and I was asking for more advice too because I was like, "What do you see?" And he was like, "I love it. Like her voice is crazy, you know." And like I was like, "Okay, sweet." So then I don't need to really like refine anything. Like at this point, like it's just adding and re-recording.
If Biana was watching this, I don't know why I just thought about this. It's so crazy because you brought up imposter syndrome. Like, I actually like showed her a glimpse of like, not gonna say the title, but one of my favorite songs
Mm-hmm.
because she was like, "What do you like?" You know, that we wrote, and so when I showed her prior. And something I'm still learning is like, and I did this with Berkeley. Like before I went to Berkeley, if you asked me, "Are you a good singer?" I'd be like, "Oh, I dabble." Like, and then it wasn't until I got into Berkeley that I was like, "No, I'm good." Like, I know I'm good. And then what I tend to do now is like, when I went through that phase, I saw that coming back of like that imposter syndrome because I went through that vocal injury. Like, I was like, well, the one thing that people don't know about this vocal, because a lot of people are like, you sound great, right? But the one thing about this vocal injury that it's I lost trust in my voice because for 6 months I couldn't hit the notes that I could hit. I was not like Carson heard me like there were times where he's like, "You are out of breath." And I was like, that's just not that wasn't how I would sing. So what I knew, it's almost as if Carson broke his hand and had to relearn how to like play the drums in the way that your hand was put back. Like,
Yeah.
and so that brought back that imposter syndrome. Was I, am I good? Like my voice changed. Like things that I thought I was good at, I wasn't, I'm not. And like, I'm relearning how to use that voice, which caused me to have an imposter syndrome because I doubted what I had. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know if I could hit that anymore. Like I'm constantly, I remember I even texted Carson once. I was like, I was in shock when I hit that note. I didn't even know I could hit that because I still hold back. And something I've worked so hard to like, worked so hard to get over, like just be loose and like stop having that control. It brought back. And like when I showed Biana that song, I'm like trying not to say the title. When I showed Biana the song, she like looked at me and she was like, "Do you think you suck?" Or like, she started asking me these like questions, like, "Do you think you and Carson don't know what you're doing?" And I was like, "Why are you asking me this?" And she was like, "I just want to know what goes on in your guys' head because like this is good." And like, isn't it crazy that like it takes like someone that like we're like, oh, like, okay, good.
Oh no, I still don't believe them.
Really?
No.
Really?
I stopped showing people things because I realized like for me, I was just fishing for a compliment.
I do understand, but there's this like vulnerability with certain people. When I show them, I know they would tell me this sucks.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing when I come to you and I show you something. I'm not fishing for a compliment from Carson because I know that he's gonna like destroy my day.
I feel like I've been destroying your days recently. Like you'll be like, "Can I post this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but like this." And like,
But the thing about me and Carson though is, and this is probably why another reason that we're good together, because one, like as much as sometimes we want to punch each other because we literally do everything in a sense of like work, friends, like that's a lot of relationships you're having in one scene. Like it's not like, oh, I'll hang out with you and then it's like no, like I'm gonna hang out with you and then we're talking about music and other, like I text Carson more than anyone. I text Carson more than my own mother. So like I was gonna say something, but I was like, so I was like,
I don't even know, but I'm curious.
But the thing is, like, I said this to myself. I think it was like this morning when I asked you that question about, like, I asked him if I should do something, and both of us had different opinions. That's like, as much as it could be annoying, it's also the best thing because that's what, like, you need the difference. You need that sense. Like I sit there and I'm like, oh, well, he's going to think this way. Cause especially when it comes to branding, like his idea is different than mine. And sometimes like I will listen. Sometimes I'll be like, if I'm like very confident in it, I'm like, no. But if not, like I like to hear that idea, that difference in ideas.
Yeah. But also too, like I always preface everything. I'm like, cause for me, ultimately it's gotta be you.
Yeah.
So like, you've never sent me anything where I'm like, absolutely not, you know? Like, I'll state my opinion, but I'm also like, if you really feel confident about this,
Yeah.
Like this is ultimately you. Like, and it needs to be you.
Yeah.
So like, you know, we disagreed this morning. Like, dude, I don't even have Instagram anymore. Like, did you post anything?
I did, and then I posted an appreciation post for you, but I didn't.
Oh shoot, sorry.
I said, but I knew you didn't have Instagram. So
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
don't know.
But again, I guess we could just say it. Like a year ago today, we finished a song that I released called Worth. And it was like in this text thread, and like and it's like a text thread of like me telling Carson, like, no comments, it's good to go. And so I was like, Carson, like, Carson's idea is don't talk about the new music that we're creating until it's done, because it's like when it's done, it's done. Like, that's what you're gonna have to show for it. Whereas I'm someone that I like to show. I'm not talking like 24/7, but I like to still there's a part of me that I like showing the process, or showing people like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm creating. Like, I'm not, and like 50% of it is like, yeah, there is that idea of like, I need to show people that I am doing it. Like, I'll be fully transparent. Like, I feel like I have to, I struggle with that, like having to show people like this, like owing them or something. And then the other 50% is just me being like, I love seeing the growth of like what we're doing, of where we are, how we are, what are we doing? Because like, I saw that text and I just started smiling. I was like, a year ago we were doing this, and like we're still moving forward. And it's like growth of like tremendously how we've changed in music too. Yeah. How we're writing, how we're doing. Like recently, if what me and Carson have been doing is like, normally in the past, I would write on the piano, send it to him, and he would just recreate the whole song. Whereas now he's sending me the instrumentals and I'm writing over it, which is not something I do because I had my style, but it challenges me to sit there and write the way he would send it to me, or write the way like, oh, I wouldn't do that, so let me write over it. And it's been like the most like fun thing, because it's a different challenge. I haven't done that. Like for 5 years that we've been working together, it's not how we wrote. And so like now,
well, like for the whole time of like college, you were just like, this is the song.
This is the song. And he liked my songs, but it's like, it started, I think that was the reason you started doing, I think it's because I also told Carson, I was like, because a lot of things I was seeing is, I love A minor. A minor is my favorite freaking like key. But I was like, Carson, I want to be challenged. Like if he wrote me a punk song, I said, all right, let's see if I could do it. Like I started wanting to branch out and find like, I know who I am and what my style is, but I want to see what people like. And so he started just sending me like nonstop. And I was like, all right, this is not only challenging, me, but it's like bettering my songwriting. And that's something that I love to do too. So through our music, what has been that's different now that's challenged you?
1 second. I think the food is burning right now and I can kind of smell it.
Oh my God, Carson. Short break.
Okay, wait, hold up.
The food is okay.
The food is okay, everybody.
So
so the most challenging thing about our music now,
for you,
for me, I'm not trying to be like super nerdy, but one thing about like going into production is like there's something to like you have to like train your ears. So like how like an average person listens to music is drastically different than someone that studies like audio and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like I'll hear things that like people don't. And like, there's also people that are way more experienced than me that can hear things that like I couldn't in a million years. So when you start producing, your standard is like the top of the top. So like when we started, and like still to this day, my reference for you is Adele, right? So
I love her.
You hear that and you don't understand the guts. You just understand the final product.
Yeah.
So like you try to recreate it, and then like you kind of like you're like, wait, why doesn't this sound like it? Like I recorded vocals, I recorded this and this, and I just put it all together, and it should be fine, right? Mm-hmm. And then even at that time, you kind of like trick yourself into thinking that that's it, and so then you're just like, oh, okay, so Like typically, like if I listen to a mix that we've done in the past, I would do something everything drastically different now because my ears have been trained to
Mhm.
like listen better and understand how these like, Billboard top charts are actually crafted and created, right? So I think the hardest thing for me now is I understand the standard, like I see the guts, and now I'm like figuring out how to like
Still be you, but
but
also
also, well, not even like I don't mind the still me being me. It's like now I know the standard and how to get there. Now it's like I need to like it was even when I was explaining like how we're gonna cut vocals moving forward. I was like, we need to do it this way.
yeah.
Like this will ensure the best. So it's like I
This
think
will ensure the best. The way you said that, this will ensure the best.
sure. I don't know. You asked me. Uh but I think that's the most challenging thing because now it's added so many more steps to get to the point where we're like, okay, we can now send this to. You started off me saying like, oh yeah, he mixes everything. I'm not mixing, it's because I'm producing. I don't. I would. I'd
Yeah.
rather have someone mix it. Um, Listen to it too many times.
No, that's like another thing. Like, I'm gonna just give it an applause. I always do. I don't take Carson for granted. I just hope
No, I don't.
I don't ever. Carson is literally the reason I have the music I have. Like, literally, there was one point, I will never forget this. And it's crazy because it was also when you came to the Bruins anthem, the second time I was calm because I was just like looking at him. And like at one point he was like mouthing the lyrics because I said, Carson, I did the anthem. And the first time I freaked out that I was going to, like, I was not okay, but he wasn't there. The second time he came, I was asked to do it again. And I'm looking at him and he's like mouthing it to me. And then I looked at him and I was like, and he just knew, he stopped. He was like, okay, she's got it. Like, but if there, and this is going to sound so freaking cheesy, but you have to understand, don't cry now.
I did.
I think there's this level of like, as much as we work together and like we want to kill each
Are
other.
you gonna cry? It sounds like you're gonna cry.
I really had a hiccup.
Stop crying right now.
So I think that there's this thing of like, I can't fathom, because when we live together, we do everything together. So it's like, I want to kill him. Like he's like, it's almost like a brother. Like literally it's like you, but like now I'm working. Like we know how to say don't work with family. Like, cause it's intensified. There's a reason people say that, but I can't fathom like the fact that he puts so much work. Like we both work the way we work. And I know he will not flake when it comes to, okay, now we work for bills and expertise, whatever, but then we're doing our thing and he will never flake on that. One time he like got stuck up at work and he was like, I'm sorry for flaking. I'm like, you're not flaking. Like this isn't flaking. But like, I can never fathom the idea of like how much work he does and the belief he has in me. Like there was another time when it was my first show in Boston that I did. And like Carson was like, it was literally was like a movie. Like Carson's in the center. Like literally the stage, like literally there's like a whole crowd. He's in the center. And I'm just like, Carson, this song is dedicated to you. It's our first song together. And he's just in the middle. But the whole time I will never forget, but I knew it wasn't like, there's people I look at, I'm like, you're BSing. Or there's people that I'm like, oh, like I know they like me, but you know, it's like I can look at him and like in that moment I was like, no, he's proud. And that is like a satisfaction that I don't want to say I strive, but I love, because
this is so much pressure. I'm not gonna lie.
This is so
I'm wearing a bunny shirt right now, and you're like, I just want to make you proud.
No,
like,
it's not even like it's the thought of like I love making him proud, because there's a work that he like. It's not like, oh, 1 second, here you go, like let me just edit this. No, it's like every single day I watch him working, not for him, but for my dream too. And it's like, I can't fathom that, because it's like he does it. He shows up. I mean, like as frustrating as this, there was like frustrations in this EP that we had, like even writing it, like I know that when it's done, it is going to be the most rewarding thing, especially because I know you were by my side through that, like that freaking like the most difficult times.
Yeah.
Like another thing about Carson is he knows there was it's like the song Secrets like that we released. He knows who that's about and what's that about. And another thing that you have to understand about the songs, they're written in real time, but created months later, years later. So like what I felt in that moment about the song, I felt in real time. But when we created the song, I didn't feel that. Like, it's not like I'm sometimes, yeah, like when I was singing Monster, like I was crying because it's like it was such a vulnerable song. It brings me back to why I wrote that song. But there was like I wrote Secrets, like created Secrets 4 years after that whole situation happened. And I remember when we recorded it, Carson goes, "Get nasty. I want you to get angry." And I'm just like, fine. Like, and he starts like saying the name. He's like, "Yeah, pretend he's here." I'm like, but it got me mad. Like, but it's the same thing with like, one thing about Carson is the songs that we're creating. Like, I'm very transparent. Like, there was one song on what we're working on, like I wrote prior to a situation. I just wrote it because I was like, everyone wanted like a freaking happy song. And I was like, I'm just going to create a freaking happy song. But then it transpired into like actually like me feeling something in that situation and writing about like what like a core moment of my life. So he's not only just meeting me and being like, "Oh, you wrote a song, great." He's seeing me through those emotions too, because you're living what I'm writing. Like, he's watching me go through something and write
Always
it.
watching.
He's always watching. He's like that eye in The Great Gatsby that's like always watching. But like, that's another thing that's so powerful for me is like you're understanding the music I'm writing in a deeper level that like some guy from like, I don't know, some studios can be like, "Great song." But he has like that, like he's being like, "No, I know what she's writing. Well, I know what she's writing about right there."
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite song so far?
Like
Probably the one I haven't written.
No, that one's cool. I mean, it's pretty, but like, we still need to get it down. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I just like the idea of the whole thing so far. Like, cause like it's like a thematic kind of thing. Like you actually follow through like your trajectory of. We keep saying situation. It's like the what was it? I don't know why this came to my mind. Was Will Smith's wife when she's like, "I was in an entanglement." And I was like,
I was in my situation.
No, you just kept saying situation. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't think you want to say it. So I'm like, your situation, but I just keep thinking entanglement.
It is an entanglement.
It
my
was.
Entanglement. I wrote an EP about my entanglement.
Yeah, basically.
It literally, and I think that's another thing like that's changed that I'm proud of. I don't know if you don't have to be proud of it, is like my writing concept. Like, I think moving to like, I do believe that whatever, don't mean to get like super religious out of nowhere, but like what the enemy intends for evil, God intends for good. And I think that one of the craziest things was when I lost my voice, literally felt like Ariel. It forced me to write in a different way. And I remember Carson was like, "Learn how to write in that way." I was like, "I don't want to." And he was like, "Learn." And it was the biggest struggle for me in that moment was I don't know how to write if I can't sing because I write for me.
Yeah.
But it forced me to write. Like, I've never in my life written in my car. Like, I don't drive and listen to a thing and just start writing. I started writing like that. I would be like, "Carson, I'm writing in different ways. I'm fine." I wrote in an airplane. I wrote most of the songs in an airplane. And I was like, this is crazy. And I started looking at songwriting for me that's changed through the years is like, inspired by Taylor Swift, I guess, but everything is like there's a reason for it now. Like, I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I listen to like Billie Eilish's things and I'm like, her newest album, for example, what I loved is like every song foreshadowed the next song. And I'm like, wow, like now I'm looking at songwriting because I personally would not consider myself a songwriter, even though people say I am. I think my strong suit is performing. You put me on a stage, I'm not scared. Like, I will tear the house down. Like, I know that I will. That is my number one confident. Like, I'm so confident that I can If I could sell out a show. I believe that. But songwriting, it's actually like I have to sit there and work. Like it feels like I'm like working
Yeah.
sometimes.
It's the same thing with like me and like actually building the track and stuff.
Yeah. Like I sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I actually have to put it. And so what's been fun, but also like it was frustrating was actually thinking deeper into my songwriting, being like, oh, like that would be cool. Why did I get that? And eventually just becomes you. It becomes like, oh, you start looking at everything in a different way. And I think that was something that was beneficial to my breakage and my
Yeah.
entanglement.
Well, it's the same thing I told you at the time. Sorry, this is cutting out. I told you at the time because I was like, okay, well, if you really want this, like, find a different way to do it. Because like, there's been moments in my life where like, okay, like for example, like my drum set that I have in my room. Do you really think I want to play on that?
No.
No, it's literally miserable. It's, if anyone knows drums, it's 2 practice pads and then like those quiet stroke cymbals that has like holes in them. It is the most like least forgiving kit and fun to play on, but it's like I came here to play drums. So
Yeah.
if I really want to play drums, then like there's a quote from one of my favorite shows called Freaks and Geeks, and like one of the you know Jason Segel,
Mm-hmm.
his character is a drummer in it, and like he's making these excuses because his idol's Neil Peart, and so like he has this giant kid in his like basement. His dad takes away his drums because like he's not doing good at school or whatever. And he's like staying at someone else's house, and the dad comes in and he's like, well, what are you doing? Like, and he was just like blasting music, and he was like, well, I'm just studying. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm studying. I'm like listening to Neil Peart. And he's like, well, what do you mean studying? He's like, well, my dad took away my drums. And he's like, well, if you're really a drummer, go find 2 sticks and a rock. And like,
Mm-hmm.
that's like my same thing. It's like, and so for you as songwriting, I'm like, okay, you can't sing. Well, guess what? You can still write and have a note paper. You can hum. You could do all these things if you really want it.
High.
Right. But like, you can get the idea.
Yeah.
You know, so like, it's like, if you really want the thing, then
You're
find
gonna find a way.
to do it.
It was definitely like, I look now, I don't know about you, it feels like a lifetime ago.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what day it is.
Yeah, like me and Carson were like, wait, it's July? Like I'm in shock. I'm like, holy crap. Like, but it's true, like the work, like it was a hard, I think we were both like really going through it. Like, but we still forced ourselves. Life doesn't stop because you're having a hard time.
It's true.
But it you got to keep going. And you can feel Carson has seen me throw things. But I look at it now and I'm like, wow, like that grew me. And especially with the podcast too, like Carson's whole thing was, well, now you can't sing. So now this is going to force you to show your personality. Because for so long, fully transparent, I knew myself as the singer, and that's it. That's what I wanted. That's all I wanted to be. And so now it forced me to like, okay, well, there's more to me that I have to now show, that I like, there's no other choice. It's either stop and like fully stop creating till your voice gets better, or find something in the meantime and keep growing. And that was something like I was very hesitant about doing podcasts because there was a fear of like, well, what will people think? Like, oh, it's a vulnerability. It's like you know, people are watching the reels, all that stuff. And there's a different tone to who I am compared to she's the funny, there's a music. Like I know like when I do my serious podcasts, like not everyone sees that unless they know me personally. And so that challenged me too. Or like us talking, like I think me and Carson sitting here and being actually like like talking about what we do compared to when people look at us and just think that, oh, they're just doing great. Like, good job. Like, no, there's so much. Like, we're constantly like, Carson's not sitting on his ass and just being like, I showed, you know, this is how he's working, hustling, grinding.
Yeah.
Grinding so much he forgot that he had food and was burning it.
Yeah, it's true. My tuna,
But
I'm curious to see how it looks.
But you know, basically having Carson on this episode was just because I wanted to reiterate it this week. Like again, it was just rough. It wasn't like one day, it was every single day I was getting this panic attack of like, I don't understand. Like I'm freaking out. And it was his text that I was like, you're right. Like, he brought me back. And yeah, so maybe this is like your appreciation
I know. I
episode.
need like someone in the comments tell me like terrible things about me because my ego is gonna be way too lifted after this episode.
No, it's not. I'm gonna
Just,
tell you
just
something
like,
right
just
now
in
about
the
Carson.
comments, be like stupid shirt, and then,
Carson, just like Matt thinks that he's not attractive. Carson doesn't see himself as this amazing human being that I always say he is. He's such a handsome boy, but it's like he's got it. And so like I literally like, don't get me wrong, I want to smack him sometimes, but I know if you could, you would smack me too. But I wouldn't be where I am without him. I wouldn't have the things that I have without him. Honestly, I wouldn't be here even in LA if I didn't have that support, because like I partly was gonna go to London. And you were the one that was like, just
no,
come here
you're gonna
first.
go to Arizona.
Well, I was gonna go to London first, and then when we were talking about LA, I was like, I was gonna go to Arizona. Carson's like, no. I'm like, you sure? But yes, Carson. This is Carson's appreciation episode, and just like what we've been doing.
Send hate in the comments.
Send hate. Send hate. Anyways, thank you so much for listening, enjoying, becoming, believing, and being inspired.
That was a lot of bees.
B. Thank you for joining me, Carson.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Just remember, do things for yourself, be the best version for you, and you are in competition with only yourself, no one else. Amen, sister. Talks with T.